Hello, dear children. Hope you all are doing well. Today, we are going to learn a new lesson in geography, that is, Exogenetic Process Part 2. So, children, in the last lesson, we have seen how the external movements, like weathering, results in breaking up of a rock and erosion. So, erosion doesn't take place by itself. Along with erosion, we have transportation, deposition. In this chapter, we will be seeing these processes which occur due to rivers, glaciers, winds, sea waves, and groundwater, and the various landforms that they form. So, children, we will first begin with the works of river and landforms. We can differentiate between a rill, gully, stream, and a river as follows. The smallest natural flow of rainwater is called a rill. Many rills come together and form a gully. Many gullies come together and form a stream. And finally, many streams come together and form a big flow of water. This big flow of water is called a river. That is how a river is formed. So, children, the slope of the land, the type of rock, volume of water flowing in the river, and the length of the flow, volume of sediments in the river, etc., are the major factors which the erosional, transportational, and depositional work of the rivers depend on. So, that is basically the material. The sediments means the material like mud, soil, pebbles. So, all these things are eroded or transported or deposited according to some factors. It depends upon how much water is flowing in the river, what is the length of the flow, or how many sediments or soils are present in the river. So, children, erosion means a process in which earthen materials are worn away. Transportational work means when there is any force or speed of maybe a wind, river, or due to even gravity, that is gravitational force. The earthen particles like sand, soil, pebbles, etc. are carried from one place to another. So, this is called as transportational works. And depositional work means after the sediments like sand, soil, minerals, and many other sediments are eroded and transported, it stops in one place, which forms a landform. So, this stopping is called as deposition. So, children, these landforms that are formed after many years. This process is not quick. It takes place with a lot of time. It's a very, very slow process. Next, we will see further erosional works of rivers. So, how does river play an important part in eroding the material that it passes through? So, children, the rivers originate at a much higher altitude. That is, rivers are mostly found near the mountainous regions, that is above the sea level. Here, the river flows at a very great speed and therefore its power to erode all the material, it may be the sand, it may be soil, pebbles around the corner of the river, gets eroded at a very great speed. The riverbed and the river banks get eroded because of the fast flowing of the water. Sand particles, pebbles, etc. move along with the flowing water and the various tributaries joining the main river. All these lead to the formation of gorges like canyons and V-shaped valleys and even waterfalls. So children, you can see in the picture, that is, the first one is a gorge, which is a canyon. You can see that is a river is passing by below. So all that is the edges of this canyon is eroded because of the river flowing. In the next picture we can see the V-shaped valley. Even here, due to the works of the river, the V-shaped valley is formed. This is as well formed due to the erosion taken place by the river flowing. Next we will see the transportation and deposition by rivers. So, a river flows down the slope. That means, as I told you earlier, that most of the rivers are found in the mountainous regions. So, most of the mountains are slopy. That is, they have a steep or a gentle slope. So, a river flows down the slope from a hilly region. At the foothills, that is, at the end of the mountain or the down part of the mountain, the change in the slope causes deposition. Okay, whatever sediments, muds were coming down along with the river from the higher parts, it gets deposited in the foothills of the mountain. So these deposition or sediments are coarse. That means rough and harsh, small and big pieces of stones, soils, rocks. As these are deposited in a triangular shape, they form an alluvial fan. So in the second picture, you can see alluvial fans are formed. So alluvial fans are formed when a particular river is flooded. It may be during rainy season or because of any other reasons. So when the river or when the water flows away from there, that time these kind of alluvial fans are formed. You can see it is in the shape of a fan. As the steepness of the slope decreases and the transporting capacity of the river reduces, it starts flowing slowly. That means if the steepness is less, then obviously the flow of the water becomes slower. That is why the transportation capacity of the river also comes down. It starts flowing slowly. It bends. So here bends is also called as meanders, often in its way in an effort to cross even small obstacles. By the time the river reaches the sea, its riverbed becomes very wide and its speed becomes very slow. So children, if you can see the first picture, meandering of a river. Meandering means bending of a river. So the first picture is an oxbow lake. Okay, so in the beginning, when this river or a lake was formed, it was in a straight line. But as years went on, as erosion took place, as transportation took place, there was a lot of material that was deposited or transported, because of which you can see the river now is looking more and more curvier. The sediments of the river gets deposited in the bed of the river and on its bank. So that is why you can see that this river, that is the Oxbow River, is looking like this, that is zigzag. The factors that determine the deposition of sediments are the length of the rivers, volume of water, amount of sediments, and slope of the river. And lastly, that is the earth's surface. So children, the erosion, deposition, and transportation taken place by the river, the factors that are responsible are these. That is, how much material or sediments are present in the river, what is the length of the river, or how much water is present in the river, and what is the slope of the river, is it very slopey, gentle, okay, and even what kind of land is the river on. So all these things, factors, are responsible. Thus landforms like flood levees, flood plains, and deltas are formed because of deposition of sediments. So you can see we have delta that is formed because of the deposition of the material due to the rivers. Even the flood levees and plains are formed due to depositional work of the rivers. Flood levees are the risen part of the river bank. You can see in the red arrows, that is the levees. And flood plains are the flatter part. You can see in the greener area, that is called as a flood plain. That is a plain area. So these all are formed because of transportation and deposition works by rivers. Next, we will see works of glaciers and the landforms formed due to their works. So children, in regions where the temperatures are generally below freezing point, so in these areas the precipitation occurs in the form of snowfall. That is, whenever the temperature is below the freezing point, we can see snowfall. So the layers of snow that get collected on the earth's surface because of snowfall, the heavy weight of these overlying layers makes the snow move along the slope. So as continuously there is snowfall, there is more and more snow that is gathering above and above. So because of which the weight of the snow becomes heavier. Okay, the snow cannot hold that, the place that it is falling on cannot hold it. And especially glaciers are on mountains, and mountains are usually slopey. So as the weight increases, it cannot bear the weight. So slowly it starts sliding down. At the base of the layer, the snow starts melting. Why? Because of the friction and the pressure from above. So as there is more and more snowfall occurring, because of which the first layer of snowfall that was there, it gets lot of pressure from above. So that is why it starts melting, and even because of the friction that is caused, continuous falling of snowfall. Glacier starts moving slowly along the slope. That means because of the heavy weight, it starts coming down. Like the river, okay, similarly like the river, as we saw earlier, a glacier too carries out the work of erosion, transportation, and deposition. So children, in this entire chapter, the main points that we are going to learn are erosion, transportation, and deposition. Now we will learn about glaciers. Now let's see the erosion work by the glaciers. So children, though the velocity is less, that is the speed of the glacier coming down is less because it is very heavy, but the mass of the ice, that is the weight of the ice, is more, and hence the glacier erodes its own bank, because as it is coming down and because it is heavy, the lower part, okay, underneath the snow which is coming down, there is tiny rock particles, sand, so that also comes down along with the snow that is sliding down, and it also erodes its own bed on a very large scale. So the erosional work of glaciers produce landforms like cirques, arêtes, horns, U-shaped valleys, hanging valleys, and roche montagneuses, which is also called as sheep backs. So children, all these are there in the picture. You can see the landform horn, which is on the peak of the mountain, which is caused due to the erosion, that is when the snow comes down melting, this kind of landform is formed. Then we can see the arêtes, okay, that is a arete. We can also see the creeks, okay. Then we have the hanging valley. We also have here in the green color U-shaped valley, okay. So these are all formed due to the erosion of, or due to the erosion because of glaciers. We also have the roche montagneuses. You can see how these are formed. See here in the first picture, the ice comes down, taking down all the small tiny particles of the rocks or even small pebbles, and because of which the roche montagneuses looks like the second picture. Now we will see the transportation and deposition by glaciers. So the glaciers carry sediments with them as they move down. These sediments, so children, sediments I told you all earlier also, all the mud, the soil, pebbles, whatever is there, the rock particles. So these glaciers, okay, these kind of sediments that are found in the glaciers are called moraines, moraines. So depending on the location of where it gets deposited, okay, all these material, wherever it gets deposited, it is being divided into 4 types, okay. These moraines are divided into 4 types. The first one is the ground moraines, okay, which is near the ground, you can see in the picture. Next is the lateral moraines. Third one is the medial moraines, okay, that is in between. And the last one is the terminal moraines. So these are the 4 types of depositional moraines. So children, the depositional work of glaciers also produces certain types of landforms like drumlins and eskers. You can see drumlin. So in the first part of the picture, you can see there is ice or glacier above the mountain. But as the glacier or as the snow comes down, sliding down, it erodes that landform, and that landform becomes smaller in size. Why? Because along with the sliding of the snow or the ice, they have also eroded the sand particles which was there, because of which it has become smaller in size. So these are called as the drumlins. Next is the esker. So esker is formed also because of the deposition of the glaciers. You can see glacial period, and after the ice, maybe it is evaporated, maybe it is melted. So you can see how eskers are formed. So children, just a fact, glaciers move at different velocities. Okay, their speeds are different, daily ranging from 1 centimeter to 1 meter. So the Jacobshoorn glacier in Greenland is one of the fastest moving glaciers in the world. It moves at the rate of 46 meter per day. So that is very fast for a glacier to move from one place. Next we will do work of the winds and the landforms produced. So children, you have learnt earlier that the movement of air is called wind. Wind is a gaseous agent of erosion. So children, as you all know, we cannot see wind. It is invisible. But the force of wind can do anything. You all know about cyclones. You all know about storms. So you know what kind of energy wind has. So let us learn about the erosion and deposition caused due to the winds. So the erosional, transportational and depositional work of wind is more in areas like desert and semi-arid regions. So these are all dry regions. So children, in the last chapter, we learned about mechanical weathering. So similarly, mechanical weathering also takes place in deserted regions or semi-arid regions. So a large scale landforms like powdered rocks and sand spreads over a large area. There is hardly any barrier or obstacle in the transportational work of the wind, because these kind of places are open. Okay, these are open spaces, so there is nothing for the wind to be stopped. There's no mountain, huge mountains. It's open space. So that is why the transportation of materials from one place to another is very much in these places. Sand particles also get transported along with the wind, and they are carried over long distances and get deposited where the speed of the wind reduces. So the more the speed of the wind, the more material the wind can carry from one place to another. As soon as the speed of the wind reduces, it deposits whatever it is carrying. It may be pebbles, sand or anything. In this way, the wind does the work of erosion, transportation and deposition. Further, we will see the erosional works of wind. So children, wind carries small sand particles, small pebbles, etc. along with it. These particles cause erosion along rocks coming in the way due to friction. So as the wind, as it blows, okay, so as it is blowing, it is having tiny particles of pebbles, stones. So when it dashes any kind of rocks coming in front of them, it erodes whatever comes in front of them. So this leads to formation of certain types of landforms like mushroom rocks, deflation hollows, yardang and hamada. So you can see the picture mushroom rock. You can see how the lower part is completely eroded and it looks just like a mushroom. Second picture, we have the yardangs. So children, yardangs consist of soft rocks. So there are two types of rocks, soft rock and hard rock. So in yardangs, when the wind blows, okay, so the soft rocks are all eroded. You all can see in the corner, it looks very thin. So earlier when there was no erosion, it was more thick. But now because there is erosion of the soft rocks, so the yardungs look more thinner. There's another part that is hamada. So here you can see there are only big heavier stones in the picture, and all the tiny particles are being taken away by the wind. Deflation hollows, they are nothing but, they cause a hollow, a hole type, because of the wind it is eroded. You can see a hole, a cave type, and even in the desert region it has created a hollow. So these are all the erosional work of wind. Next we'll see the depositional work of winds. So children, sand particles that blow with the wind are of different shapes and sizes. Okay, so those particles which are very fine, that is very small, are carried over a larger distance because they are very light. Okay, they are not heavy. So that is why winds can carry lighter materials to a very far away places because they are light in weight, with larger ones get deposited to shorter distances. So the heavier the size of the sediment, the shorter the distance. Okay, these sand particles get deposited in deserts and semi-arid climates. These are all dry regions. As a result, specific landforms are formed like sand dunes, barchans, seefs, ripple marks, Lewis plains, etc. Next, we will see the works of sea waves and the landforms that they create. So, in the coastal areas, sea waves carry out the three main things, that is erosion, deposition, and transportation. So, winds and tides cause the movement of sea water. Okay, so you all know what are tides, right? High tide and low tide. So because of they are hitting the rocks at the coast, so you all know that near the coastal areas, the waves are continuously hitting the rocks and the shore. So erosion of the rocks occur because of the continuous hitting of the water on the rocks. In coastal areas having wide beaches, waves carry out depositional work. So wherever the areas of coastal regions are wide, okay, very huge and wide and spread, so depositional works are carried out in a very large scale. So you all can see in the picture there are various landforms that are created because of the sea waves. Like you can see the sea cliff on top, there is the sea cave, we have the wave cut platform, sea arch, sea stack, and many other. Let's see the erosional work of sea waves. When the waves break at the coast, that means when the waves come and hit the coast, they bring with them water. Okay, they bring water, transported stones. It may be from the ocean bed. They bring along with them stones. Then they also bring pebbles and some sand particles and many other things. So this leads to the erosion of the coast. Okay, because these tiny stones, pebbles, they hit the rocks along with the water. So because of which the coastal area is eroded. Because of the chemical and hydraulic action of the sea waves too, erosion occurs. Children, hydraulic means the sheer force of water, okay, when the water, that is the sea water, comes crashing against the coastline, which causes materials to be carried away by the sea. So, because of such actions, there is erosion that occurs on the coast. So, because of this erosion, we have several landforms that are cut or that are formed, like wave cut platforms, sea caves, sea arches, sea cliffs, etc. So, you all can see in the picture, these are the various kind of landforms that are created due to the erosion caused by the sea waves. Now let us see the depositional work of sea waves. So children, the eroded materials, okay, whatever the eroded materials are there, they get collected at the seabed, okay. So because of tides, whenever there is high tide, low tide, they keep on moving towards the coast, okay, they come towards the coast, and when there is low tide, it goes away from the coast. They become fine. So because they move from one place to another, there is continuous movement of those tiny particles, okay, those eroded particles. So because of this, there is attrition. That means those particles weaken, okay, there is weakening of those particles and hitting each other. They hit each other continuously because of forward and backward movement because of the sea waves and also the tides. So deposition of such materials occur at the places where the effect of waves is less. That means these kind of materials are deposited where waves do not hit the coast very much, okay, there is very slow movement, then there is deposition. If there is very fast forceful waves, then deposition does not take place. Why? Because as harder the waves hit the coast, that much harder it goes back. So that is why there is no deposition when there is high speed or force applied. But there can be deposition when the energy of the waves is less. So when the energy of the waves is less, so there is deposition formed, okay, there is deposition. So landforms like beaches, sandbars, lagoons are formed. So these are the landforms which are created because of the deposition of the sea waves. You all can see in the picture, we have the beach, okay, here the sand is being deposited to the coast continuously. Second picture, we have the sandbar. You can see that, you know, there is water everywhere, but only a tiny segment of it is above the water, okay. That is where the material is deposited because of the waves or the high tide or low tide. The third picture is the lagoon. Here also you all can see, lagoon means, you know, a particular water body which is, you know, separated from the main body, okay. You all can see the above part is complete ocean. So some part of it is separated because of the deposition of, you know, because of the deposition that is caused because of the sea waves. You can see sand is being deposited in all the four corners and only a tiny part of it, you know, water is coming inside. So this is called as a lagoon. Next is the work of groundwater and the landforms that are produced because of groundwater. So children, the rainwater seeps below the earth's surface through porous rocks. What are porous rocks? Rocks which develop tiny holes in them. You all might have seen these kind of rocks near the beaches in Mumbai. or they even have cracks in them. So this water gets collected in the non-porous layers. That means this water gets collected in those kind of rocks layer where there is no hole or there is no absorption, okay, by the rocks. This collected water is called as the groundwater. So children, the soluble minerals in the water, soluble means what? Those minerals that dissolve in water. So these soluble minerals in the water get dissolved and flow with the groundwater. This is the erosional work of the groundwater. So if there is any mineral that is present in the rocks which gets dissolved in water, so this groundwater, okay, makes the minerals that are present in the rock, they erode, okay. So this type of process is called as the erosion of minerals due to groundwater. When the groundwater evaporates, so children, you all know evaporation takes place. So whenever this groundwater evaporates because of heat, the volume of soluble minerals is more than the solubility. Solubility means what? The process or the ability to be dissolved in water of the groundwater. So the deposition of dissolved material starts. Landforms like sinkholes, limestones, caves, stalactites and stalagmites are formed. Thus, the groundwater carries out the erosion, transportation and depositional work. So children, you all can see the first picture, that is a sinkhole. So sinkhole is formed due to erosion. You all can see a hole is being created. So that is mainly because the rocks are being eroded and there is a space that is created there. Limestone caves, you all can see, this is also due to the groundwater erosion. Next we have the stalactite and stalagmite. So children, stalactite are the upper ones, okay. So when the water from above, that is a rainwater from the surface, earth surface, penetrates into the ground, when it comes down, okay, drop by drop it falls, okay. So when it falls, there are certain type of minerals that are present in the water. They do not fall off, they form there like crystals. So that straight crystals, okay, salt type things are called as the stalactite. So similarly, when the drops fall down, the water droplets fall down, but when they do not move and the minerals that are present in it, are formed in one place. So in that process, the stalagmites are formed. So these are all the landforms that are formed due to the groundwater. Next is the groundwater table. So children, the upper surface of the water collected below the ground is called the water table. Factors like seasons, porosity of rocks, that is, how much the rocks can absorb, amount of rainfall, etc., affect the level of water table. The water table is closer to the ground during rainy seasons, while it is deeper in the summers. So children, most of the time we dig wells or there is boring, pumping wells. So these all things get water from the groundwater table, and mostly these groundwater table have water till the surface of the earth during the rainy season, because there is continuous water that is seeping into the ground. But during the summer season, because of huge amount of evaporation, this water table goes down, okay. There is evaporation, so that is why the water goes down. Okay, children, with this we have now completed with the fourth chapter. Thank you for listening, children. Take care.